Hey everybody, it was another busy week in Washington, D.C. and here in the district. There was a lot of legislation passed that was actually bipartisan, as well as some very, very controversial issues that I voted no on. I voted no to add more spending, which would increase the deficit for the Iranian war, and there was a poison pill to actually do the SAVE Act, which is the idea that they're trying to stop people from actually voting. And I voted yes on the EARLY Act to improve the Center for Disease Control's National Breast and Cervical Cancer Early Detection Programs. There were a lot of bills that passed that were bipartisan related to ALS and to Lyme disease and dementia and Alzheimer's training and National Institutes of Health Improve Act for maternal health. And I signed on to two what are called discharge petitions to try and get something on the floor so we can force a vote, even though the speaker doesn't want us to. One was a vote to say no taxpayer-funded settlement slush funds act, where the president is trying to set up a special fund just to pay people, for example, like people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th and were prosecuted, and the president ultimately pardoned. Now he wants to give them money from the federal government, and we have to try and stop that. I also signed a discharge petition to try and legalize what are called the dreamers, the people that came here as little children and have either graduated from high school and are now either in college or have joined the military or have never committed a crime and are working full-time for the past 3 years. And I had major meetings this week with the 100th anniversary of the Long Island Association. I actually spoke on the floor regarding that. I met with the Long Island Sound Advisory Committee, bipartisan meetings. I had a Ways and Means markup to work on legislation to try and get onto the floor. I spoke as a keynote speaker, bipartisan, with the other co-chair of the Problem Solvers Caucus at the Across the Aisle Summer Series, as well as at one of the big think tanks. I did a video about the One Big Beautiful Bill and the SALT deduction. I was on CNN with Dana Bash on Sunday morning and visited some of the pools in Queens just to go out and talk to some constituents. And I had meetings with people from the Paul Corporation located over in Port Washington. I met with people related to the Taiwan U.S. security delegation. I met with folks trying to push for a breakthrough with type 1 diabetes and others related to specialty medicines. And I had a dinner with Pastor Ezra Jin, who was released by the Chinese Communist Party, and with Ziba Murat, whose mother is still held illegally by the Chinese Communist Party. And I met with Father Chris Kellerman from the Jesuits, who's trying to get more members of Congress to listen to what the Pope had to say in his encyclical, how we have to be careful with artificial intelligence. The bottom line, it was another busy week in Washington, D.C., and we're always working to try and actually get things done. And it's hard sometimes, in the midst of all the noise and all the toxicity, to realize that some things are getting done. Not as much as we want, but we're trying to work across party lines. We're trying to fight back when necessary, but we're also trying to just serve the people.